The laughter carried across the cold morning air, sharp and careless, as the veteran hammered the final plank into place. People slowed their cars just to stare. Some shook their heads. Others smiled in disbelief. A weathered man and an old dog building a shed around an already broken house looked like a joke to everyone watching. No one believed there was a reason. No one believed it would matter. And no one imagined how wrong they were. If you believe that silent heroes deserve second chances, and that wisdom often looks foolish before it saves lives, take a moment now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this are meant to be seen and remembered. His name was Daniel Brooks, a Christian veteran living in a forgotten mountain town in the United States, where winters arrived early and stayed too long. Daniel had served his country with loyalty and returned with scars no one could see. The war took his health, his marriage, and eventually his savings. What it did not take was his discipline or his faith. When he moved into the abandoned house on the edge of town, he brought only tools, a truck full of salvage wood, and his aging dog Max, who had stayed with him through everything when people did not. The house itself was barely standing. Cracks ran through the walls like old wounds. The roof leaked. The insulation was almost non-existent. Neighbors whispered that he would not last a single winter. Daniel listened, nodded politely, and went to work anyway. He had learned long ago that survival did not come from explaining yourself to those who refused to understand. Instead of fixing the house the way everyone expected, Daniel began building outward. He constructed a rough wooden shed that wrapped around the entire structure, leaving a narrow space between the old walls and the new shell. It looked strange, even pointless, to anyone passing by. Children laughed. Adults joked that the veteran had finally lost his mind. Max sat quietly nearby, tail thumping against the dirt, as if he alone understood the plan. Daniel worked slowly, carefully, measuring every gap, sealing every joint. He filled the space between the house and the shed with stacked firewood, tight and dense, arranged like a living wall. It was exhausting work for a man with chronic pain, but he never complained. Each log place felt like a promise kept, not to the town, but to himself and the dog who depended on him. As autumn deepened, the laughter grew louder. Neighbors gathered at the diner and mocked the wooden fortress around the house. They said it looked ugly, unsafe, and unnecessary. They said he should have asked for help or moved somewhere warmer. Daniel heard it all. He said nothing. Faith had taught him that quiet obedience mattered more than approval. When winter arrived, it arrived violently. The first storm buried roads and snapped power lines. Temperatures dropped far below normal. One by one, furnaces failed across town. Firewood froze solid. Moisture seeped into sheds and turned logs useless. Panic spread quickly, because cold does not wait for pride to soften. Inside Daniel's strange shelter, the air stayed steady. The firewood wall absorbed the cold and released warmth slowly. The shed blocked wind. The old house, protected at last, held heat it had never known before. Max slept peacefully near the stove, and Daniel sat with a blanket around his shoulders, praying quietly, grateful not for comfort, but for preparedness. Then the power went out completely. By the second night, fear replaced laughter. People knocked on each other's doors asking for spare logs, spare heaters, spare hope. Some remembered the veteran on the edge of town. Some remembered the wood stacked thick around his house. Desperation makes memory sharp. When the first neighbor arrived at Daniel's door, ashamed and shivering, Daniel did not hesitate. He opened the shed door and shared firewood freely. More followed. Families, elderly couples, parents carrying children wrapped in coats. They stood in the snow, humbled, realizing that the man they mocked had quietly built what they all needed. Daniel never spoke of being right. He never reminded them of their laughter. He simply helped. He showed them how to stack wood properly, how to protect it from moisture, how to plan for storms instead of reacting to them. His house became a place of warmth, not just physical, but human. Max greeted everyone gently, tail wagging like forgiveness made visible. As the storm worsened, emergency services struggled to reach the town. Fires broke out in poorly insulated homes as people tried to stay warm. Daniel's shed, designed carefully with airflow gaps and fire safety in mind, stayed stable. His planning prevented disaster, not just for himself, But for those who learned from him in time, the town changed after that winter. Not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply. Neighbors began greeting Daniel with respect. Some apologized quietly. Others asked for advice. He helped them rebuild sheds, insulate homes, and store wood correctly. His faith, once private, became visible through action rather than words. Daniel never sought recognition. What mattered to him was that Max lived his final years warm and safe. What mattered was that no one else would freeze because of ignorance or pride. He believed God had carried him through war so he could serve quietly here in a way that looked small until it became essential. Near the end of this story, if it moved you or reminded you that wisdom often hides behind ridicule, please engage with this video and support the channel, because sharing these stories helps keep quiet courage alive. Before the ending, I want to ask you one simple thing. Please comment below and tell us what part of this story stayed with you the most. Your words might reach someone who feels invisible right now. The shed around the house still stands today, weathered but strong. Children no longer laugh when they pass it. They ask questions. They listen. And sometimes that is how change really begins.